Hi Susan, good to see
Hiya.
you.
Hi.
Thanks for joining the Pure IT Chat podcast.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you coming on board. And today, I don't know if you want to tell everybody a wee bit about your business before we get into our topic for today.
Yep, so I am Susan Eaglesham and I'm a client director working with Konsileo Insurance. We're a commercial insurance broker. I am based in East Kilbride, so I'm a general all-rounder and based in the central belt of Scotland. That's me.
Thank you. And we met at a BNI networking, and we are both in the same group. Um, and today I wanted to have a chat about cyber insurance. Now, I don't know an awful lot about cyber insurance, and it seems to be a bit of a confusing topic for people. And I thought today we could have a wee chat about it and maybe just even list some of the key points that would be important for companies when they're considering it. So I don't know, I'll let you kick off about what cyber insurance is and why companies do need it.
Absolutely. So, what I find absolutely fascinating, Monique, is that in insurance, um, businesses need to ensure their main fundamental risks are covered. For example, an office insurance, professional indemnity, liabilities. But when it comes to cyber, they cannot see the risk. And that is without education. So there needs to be more education around what it covers, what it is, and how it actually protects a business going forward. Because every business uses technology, um, every business in my mind, and it will be the same for you, needs
Mhm.
cyber insurance. Do you agree with that?
I do agree, yes. I think possibly what happens is maybe companies just take a very blanket policy that's sort of chucked in with their main, I don't know, would it be the professional indemnity insurance or
Yeah.
something like that that's just sort of chucked in and they go, great, that's it. They don't look at it and they're not entirely sure. And I have been guilty of that in terms of what the cover is. So yeah, so tell us a bit more. What should people be considering or what cover do they need? I know
Yeah. So
obviously
the
every
bit,
business is different. I know that.
yeah, exactly. But so the biggest vulnerability we see that's a regular occurrence comes in the form of a member of staff making a digital error. So what we obviously see is that no matter what the scale or the size of the business, and it doesn't matter whether you're freelance or whether you're in a big corporate company or a two-man band, you need cyber cover. And also the GDPR element, the regulator makes it more essential for businesses to make sure that they've got their correct cyber cover in place. So you need the protection of cyber insurance if you use computers and email, which everybody does. You have a website. You store customer data, or it could be employee rather information. Take payments electronically, or you store data in the cloud, or you use cloud-based services. Um, and obviously, that's the purpose of cyber. It gets you back to where you were before the loss, and it just means that obviously you're protected in that side of things, and obviously it covers you in a whole manner of means, but mainly it's the time, the money, and the expertise required to stop this from happening. That's what cyber insurance is for. So it's to prevent the business sort of going down should there be a huge fallout, and you're obviously dealing with that fallout having cyber insurance in place.
Mhm.
So what it covers, um, a whole variety of things. Security failures, that's where a hacker would exploit a weakness in the business's digital security. It could be just a straightforward cyber attack where that's any kind of digital attack against a business. Extortion, where a criminal could use ransomware to hold systems or data to ransom. Human error, which is one of the biggest culprits, leading to data breaches, system outages, clicking on the wrong email, sending the wrong email to a director that you think's the director and it's not the director, that sort of thing. And that includes social engineering as well, which relies on human error to succeed. For that to actually happen, you need obviously human error for that. And then the big one is the data breaches. So that's where personal or commercial information is accessed illegally, which we've seen across the board with big cyber attacks like the NHS and things like that. Um, the deal of obviously the regulatory aspect in dealing with that and the investigations and everything associated with that is huge. And obviously the lawsuits attached to that can be absolutely astronomical. Financial crime. Sorry, I know the list is endless. Financial crime and
Wow.
fraud. I know. You are tricked into digitally sending money to someone that isn't that person, which we've seen happen a lot, and it's often the case. It happens after the event, and then they come back and say, "Do I have cyber cover?" No, I don't, and I've just transferred £10,000 to a customer that I thought was a customer, and it's not a customer.
Yeah.
The reputational damage of all of that happening. So if the PR side of things, all of that gets affected, like for example, the likes of the NHS, and the business interruption, so the interruption to the physical interruption to the business following an attack, and how you actually go from cyber attack to trading again as normal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I've heard of all of those stories. I've seen some of them also happen. And I think people assume that they've got the cover. And it's like you say, then they come running and say, "Oh, Susan, can you look at our policy? Are we covered for this?" How do you work out, like, is it quite complex to work out what a company needs in terms of the cover? Is it like a sort of questionnaire they go through in terms of how well their IT's set up, how well, their team are trained, do they do training with their team? How do you work that cover out for a business?
No, you're absolutely right. So it totally depends on the IT infrastructure within that business. So the more hardware means there's more to repair and replace, and obviously the software side is more data to restore. So you've got the two aspects of the hardware and software, and you need to take into account the way you do business. Can you still trade without a website? Can you survive without email? Do you take payments online? Do you hold particularly sensitive customer data? What would be the consequences for you and your customers if you're hacked and you're held to ransom for X amount of money? Are you going to be able to get back on your feet? Are you going to be able to pay out of your own pot for that should something happen? And the answer normally is no, we can't. We can't afford it. And it's not just the actual cyber incident happening, it's the ramifications afterwards and what happens after that. And that's obviously where the cyber side comes in and helps.
Because I guess as well, maybe the professional indemnity cover this, I'm not entirely sure, I'm not an expert in insurance, that they may be sued as well by
Yes,
their supplier or their client, because it could
exactly.
have been their money that was transferred, depending on what kind of business it was. So I guess there's quite a lot of exposure and risk regarding not taking out the right cover, or indeed, from my point of view, not having the IT infrastructure and the cyber security top notch.
Exactly.
So
And
they go hand in hand, don't they, really, a wee bit?
It's all connected. So you can have a professional indemnity policy, which they call a kind of professional indemnity combined policy, where you'll have public liability, professional indemnity, and often some of the sort of competent insurers will then tag on a cyber element to that to make sure that you're covered from all angles, because essentially giving bad advice and that side of it, the cyber side, obviously, all as you say, it goes hand in hand together. So the actual costs associated with all of this happening are astronomical. And it doesn't, what I think the misconception is that you seem to think that being a smaller end business, you're turning over a couple of £100,000 a year and you've got a couple of staff, maybe two bums on seats. You don't need it. You do. And the problem is the bigger end stuff. So there could be a bigger end attack on a smaller size business. It could have an astronomical effect to a business if you end up being held to ransom for £25,000 and you just do not have that money. And unfortunately, the police can't do anything about it, because we've had clients before where they've gone to the police and said, "You're going to need to help me here. I'm being held to ransom for X number of tens of thousands. We can't do anything." So it's a really sticky kind of situation to be in without having the correct insurance in place. And it's just to raise awareness for that, because I think a lot of clients need to know that that's the case.
Yeah. And like we've been asked quite a few times, we get asked to fill in the sort of cyber questionnaire for the insurance company for our clients. I mean, do companies like do they do that with you? Do you go through that with them if they want to have a decent, proper comprehensive policy? Would you go
Yeah.
through something like that and hope that they were honest in their answers?
So a lot of the insurance companies now do what's known as a sort of digital proposal form where you would be filling it out, but probably with the broker's assistance. So you fill out the details, but they can also run background checks on the business so they can check the health of the business before they decide to, you know, if you say that you want X amount of cover, then this health check that is done in the background for a lot of these bigger companies, like for example, CFC, who I use a lot for cyber, they're kind of like a gold star in the margin type insurer. They do the health check side of things, and it will obviously flag up any issues within the business. You need to put in things like, number of employees, turnover, that sort of idea, and then it will obviously generate from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, I guess, well, it's not quite finally, but I mean, in terms of pricing, I know it's hard to say because, you know, all insurance is different, all companies are different. I mean, is there a benchmark? Is it typically known to be quite an expensive type of insurance?
Believe it or not, no.
Oh,
So
it's good
it's
to know.
all banded. So and it really depends on which insurer you approach. So everybody's not tarred with the same brush, but it depends what insurer you go to for premium. But it is banded in turnover, so it would tend to be from 0 to 500,000, then from 500,000 to 1.5 or whatever, and it's
Okay.
stepped up from there. And it will be it's almost back in the day, and I would say maybe 5, 10 years ago, it was a matrix system. So you would literally be looking at an Excel spreadsheet, and it would tell you what that premium's going to be before you've actually put any of the details in. So it's very much, it is dependent on the turnover and the number of employees. That's what it's driven by. And obviously, then there's a lot of questions on these cyber props that you need to answer, like your authentication stuff, all that sort of thing, just to make sure
Yeah.
that everything is pucka. And you need to make sure that you do answer those questions,
Yeah.
honestly, because if you don't, then clearly they're not gonna obviously pay out.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's important. I love nothing more than when we're asked to fill in one of those forms for clients than to be able to tick every single box to say they have everything that's been asked for. That's amazing. And obviously the other clients, there's some gaps. They perhaps don't want to take it. And I can only recommend that these boxes that we can't tick for you, I would definitely recommend that you look at those areas. So it's kind of working hand
absolutely.
in hand to have that
Mm,
that full. It's a bit like don't shut the door once the horse is bolted kind of thing.
yeah,
It's better to have it done proactively and have your cyber security in the business top notch and set up as best you can, working with your IT company. You're probably going to get potentially more favorable cyber insurance, potentially. Not sure. Don't know how that works in terms of
yeah.
underwriting.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess having you know your IT infrastructure set up well is definitely going to go hand in hand with your cyber insurance premium
Absolutely.
and your
And
cover.
I think the cyber essentials, so that side of things, a lot of insurers now, they take that into account. So if they do have that accreditation, then what happens is they actually look at that when they're rating the risk. So, for example, if the cyber's an add-on to a package, for example, then that gets taken into account. If it's a standalone cyber policy and they do have cyber essentials or this accreditation, then they will get a discount. There's discounts there to obviously suggest that they are fully up to speed with their IT infrastructure, and they know that if there's any issues, as you say, all the boxes are ticked in the right order, everything's there, all the information's there. They're not going to have you don't need to go and look for it elsewhere.
Yeah, I think
Um,
for us and insurance companies, I guess, underwriters, etc., the cherry on the top to give to clients and for them to have is that we do cyber essential certification for
yeah,
them.
Yeah.
And you know that's okay, there's Cyber Essentials Plus as well, and there's some other accreditations on, further on ISO, etc. But I think that does give them, I always say this to clients, your Cyber Essentials certification will give you £100,000 worth of cyber insurance cover free. However, it is not fully comprehensive. You still need to go through that policy and speak to your insurance broker about, whether there's gaps in there, what you need to look at to get that additional cover to make sure you're fully comprehensive. Don't just rely on that. So I always said, I mean, I'm not an advisor in terms of, again, insurance, but I always say to them, look, have a chat with your insurance broker just to make sure if, you're fully covered for everything. And
Yes.
if people wanted to get in touch with you, Susan, to chat about any of their commercial insurance, how would they do that?
So I'm obviously on email, so it's susan.eaglesham@consileo.com, and I have a LinkedIn page, and I'm on WhatsApp, and I've got obviously my mobile as well, so you can get in touch with me a whole variety of ways. I'm on Facebook as well.
Good. And I can obviously put your details in the chat as well for anyone that wants to get in touch with you. And I know you look after your clients very well. You've told us lots of stories about different people you've saved lots of money for or where they were underinsured. So I think for companies wouldn't do any harm to have that assessment and have a chat with you. So thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on
so
and
much,
chatting
Monique.
about this topic that, people brush under the carpet and, don't really understand. So I really appreciate that. It's been good to chat to you.
Lovely to chat to you. I'll speak to you
Okay,
soon.
enjoy the
Take
rest
care.
of your day, Susan.
You
Thanks.
too.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye.
Bye.